Hi, I'm Brian from BrianKeaneFitness.com, qualified personal trainer and sports nutritionist. If you're currently on a weight loss journey or looking to lose body fat and you're a little bit confused about the misinformation out there, here are 5 things that generally don't work for long-term fat loss. Number 1, completely avoiding carbohydrates. This is probably one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to long-term fat loss, and that's the complete elimination of any food group or macronutrient. Carbohydrates being the primary macronutrient that tend to get pulled on some diets. The truth is, carbs aren't bad, and also carbohydrates aren't all created equal. There's complex carbohydrates and there's simple sugars. They're both identical when it comes to calorie intake. 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 kilocalories, whether that's from simple sugars or whether that's from complex carbohydrates like oats, sweet potatoes, or rice. The problem with simple sugars is it's very easy to overeat them, and that can lead to excess consumption of calories, and that can lead to fat gain. So the temptation to remove carbohydrates is very real for some people, but it's generally not the most helpful long-term strategy. Instead of completely removing them, make sure you factor them into your calorie intake and try and make some more supportive carbohydrate choices. For example, sweet potato, rice, quinoa, whole grain pasta, all really good options for carbohydrates in a calorie control plan. So remember, when it comes to losing body fat, you need to be in a caloric deficit. You don't need to eliminate any macronutrient, including carbohydrates. So number 2, things that generally don't work for long-term fat loss, and that's doing too much cardio. There's a little bit of a misconception around cardio where people will say cardio burns fat. Cardio doesn't burn fat. Cardio burns calories, and burning more calories can support a calorie deficit, and that can help you burn body fat. But doing too much cardio can be a bit of a catch-22 as well. 1, it can make you think that you can overconsume calories because you've done extra cardio. Generally not a good long-term approach. If you've ever been on the cross trainer, burned through 300 calories and then ate a donut straight after, you know what I'm talking about. Doing excess cardio so that you can eat more food generally isn't a good way to build your relationship with food over the long term. And a second element that can make it a poor food choice is if you focus too much on cardio, it's coming at the cost of something else that might support you even more. And I'm talking about weight training here. Weight or resistance training can increase your metabolic rate, meaning that you burn more calories while you rest. True, when you're doing a cardio session, you tend to burn more calories through that actual session, but you tend to not burn that many as you recover. Whereas a resistance training and weight training is the opposite. You burn less calories during the actual workout, but your metabolic rate has to increase over the next 48 to 72 hours in order for your body to repair from that workout. So when body composition or losing body fat is the goal, you want to focus on both. A little bit of weight training and a little bit of cardio. Number 3, for things that don't generally work for long-term fat loss, detox or skinny teas. I don't even know where to start with this. Detox teas don't work. Correction, detox teas don't work for fat loss. They barely work for detox. To detoxify your body, you need to reduce the amount of sugar and salt you're consuming and increase your water. Your body will naturally detoxify itself that way. A detox tea might speed that up, but it's not going to help you lose body fat. Skinny teas, on the other hand, that have laxatives in them that can make you go to the toilet, yes, that's a real thing. That will help you for weight loss, but you're not going to be able to stick to it long term. So on top of it being terrible for your health, it's a terrible long-term strategy for fat loss. Number 4, for things that generally don't support long-term fat loss, eating only salad. Now, I totally get the temptation. Salad is a low-calorie food, and trying to eat it for several meals a day will definitely support fat loss or weight loss in the short term. But it's a terrible idea long term. I would consider myself quite a disciplined person. I live a fitness lifestyle, but the thought of eating salad for 3 meals a day for the rest of my life makes me want to jump off a building. So it's generally not a sustainable plan for people on a fat loss journey. By all means, include more greens and salad into your plan, but if you're trying to sustain yourself on that alone, you're not going to be able to stick to it long term. Instead, focus on a calorie control plan that gets you into a deficit with good food choices from all the macronutrient groups. Good healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, complete protein sources, and loads of greens, fruits, and vegetables. Number 5, the elephant in the room for things that generally don't work for long-term fat loss. Fat burners and diet pills. Now, the problem with fat burners and diet pills is they will work for the short term for the majority of people. Fat burners and diet pills generally have a high level of stimulants and or appetite suppressants that can support a fat loss journey. So all the stimulants tend to give you more energy so that you're moving more throughout the day and thus burning more calories. Combine that with the appetite suppressing element, you're going to eat less throughout the day. That's a recipe for fat loss for the short term. But what happens with a lot of people is they'll rebound once you stop taking the diet pills or once the fat burners stop working because you've burnt out your adrenals or you've burnt out your body, so those stimulants don't work for you anymore. So they are one of the worst things you can do for long-term fat loss because the temptation is high because they will work in the short term. But as Isaac Newton said, what goes up must come down. Did you really think you were going to be able to take a pill that gave you fake energy and suppress your appetite and be able to stick to that for 6 months or 6 years? I don't think so. So keep that in mind when it comes to sustainability on a fat loss journey. So if you're on a weight loss journey or a fat loss journey right now, there are 5 things that generally don't work for fat loss in the long term. So as always, if you like today's video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for videos coming each and every week.